A stable, comfortable, and happy life to you all. This video is about creating your own job. This is the first part of the 4-video series. Before we continue, you can subscribe today and click the bell button now to get notified of our new video.
The truth about the job market. It's no secret that the job market is more volatile and unpredictable than ever these days. Depending on where you live, the unemployment rates can fluctuate from a reasonable 7% to as high as 25%, and who knows exactly how high they could go in the near future. Finding a job is almost impossible. Companies everywhere are cutting costs and downsizing like there's no tomorrow. For many companies, there really is no tomorrow. Even the fail-proof companies are seeing bankruptcies and buyouts more often than ever in the past 100 years. If you don't already have a steady, stable job with a well-established company, then you definitely picked the wrong decade to be unemployed in. Even if you have a stable job, there's really no telling if it will be there next month or even next week. So what's the solution? What can you do? You can't just magically change the economy and make the job market better. You probably won't get a lot done by writing a letter to your senator either. Believe it or not, there is a solution, and it requires a lot of work and dedication, but it's a lot better than being unemployed. Create your own job. I know that sounds a little funny when you just look at it like that, but it's the truth. There are no jobs out there, and the few that are open are only going to highly qualified people with years of experience. So unless you fit that category, you have to create your own job. Specifically, I'm talking about freelancing. People have been doing freelancing for thousands of years. Even in ancient Rome, the army hired mercenaries to go into battle when there weren't enough soldiers. Mercenaries were freelance warriors. They weren't employed full-time by a particular nation's army, they just worked for whoever was willing to pay the most. Hopefully, you don't have to do any paid fighting anytime soon, but the spirit of the mercenary and the idea of contract work carries on thousands of years later in the form of freelancing. By becoming your own boss and establishing contract relationships, you open up a world of money-making possibilities while completely abandoning all of the negative aspects that come with a typical 9-to-5 job. In this book, we're going to explore the many options you have should you choose to become a freelancer. We're going to talk about freelance work in a way that allows you to learn the essential techniques, regardless of what field you choose to freelance in, be it business, graphic design, or even housekeeping. Why do freelance? So, what's so great about freelance work exactly? Well, let me start out by giving you an example of the type of person freelancing is not good for. If the following paragraph describes your life, then you can stop reading this and just go back to what you were doing. Do you enjoy getting up early every single morning and wading through miles of traffic to get to work? Do you find it exciting seeing the exact same people every single day, 5 to 6 days a week, with absolutely no variety or change? Are you your boss's best friend? Do you look forward to answering to your boss and having to meet his or her deadlines constantly? Do you enjoy never seeing your family members during the day or always having to miss out on events like school recitals and soccer games? Is it fun to make poverty-level wages and live paycheck to paycheck so that you pretty much have no variety in your life because any big expense could make your bills come crashing down on you? If you answered yes to all of those questions, then, as I said, stop reading and go back to your wonderful life. Freelance work probably isn't for you. If you did freelance work, you'd be your own boss. You'd be taking your career into your own hands and having complete control over your life. You can just throw this book away or delete it from your hard drive. Now, if you didn't answer yes to all of those questions, you might be the type of person who could have a lucrative career freelancing. Get comfortable, grab a pen and a pad of paper so you can take some notes and get ready to explore one of the most rewarding and lucrative ways of making a living in the 21st century. Does freelancing mean you will get rich overnight? No, it takes work and dedication. There are a number of obstacles that you will have to overcome, but the rewards will be substantial if you're willing to put in the time and effort. The possibilities are endless. There are opportunities for any person to break into the lucrative career of freelancing. All you need is diligence, patience, and tenacity to pursue it and make it happen. This book will show you how. On the other hand, if you are the person that was described at the beginning of the chapter, get that beverage and curl up with the latest novel by your favourite author. It might be enjoyable reading, and that is fine. Just remember, unless you are doing that for a living, you won't be making a dime. Be your own boss. Freelancing allows you to be your own boss. This means you make your own hours. Making your own hours does not mean loafing around all day. It means having the self-discipline to set aside a certain amount of hours that you work each day. But as the boss, you get to decide what those hours are. That way you can pick up the kids from school, have lunch with the spouse, go to the gym during the day when it's not so crowded, and never have to make that horrible rush hour commute. Wear what you want. Does your current job have a dress code? How does sitting in your pyjamas all day sound? What about just spending the day wearing your favourite pair of worn-out jeans and that t-shirt from that unforgettable 1980s rock concert? If you are an independent agent like a freelancer, then you decide the dress code. Set your own price. Being a freelancer means that you get to set your own prices for what your time is worth. You get to determine your own prices based on your costs and your time. You don't have to pay yourself a minimum amount or charge a certain amount. You have total control over what kind of money you can make. Instead of waiting years to get a raise, you can adjust your own prices. As you become more proficient and widen your client base, you can double and triple your earnings as you see fit. Live wherever you want. Have you ever considered living somewhere else but your job and family obligations keep you stuck in the same place? Freelancing gives you the freedom to take your family, if that applies to you or just yourself, and live wherever you want. As long as you have a phone, a computer, and a way to receive mail, you can live at the South Pole or Hawaii and still have a lucrative freelancing career. Your home is your office. You can be sitting in a coffee shop and enjoying a scone with a mocha latte at the same time you're making millions of dollars. Realistic expectations. A lot of people live by two very popular old sayings. Nothing in life is free, and if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. In the case of freelancing, the price is minimal. As you will see in future chapters, you will need some general items such as a computer, a printer, and maybe a fax and scanner. After you have the materials needed to be a freelancer, your greatest cost will be your time and effort. How much are you worth? The best part is that you get to decide what your time and effort are worth. As far as the rule, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, here is something to consider. You should not quit your day job immediately and hope to make $10,000 next month. Instead, start slow and work your way to making the money you want. If you are making the equivalent of your full-time job and you have too much freelance work to do, then decide to freelance full-time and quit your day job. If you work hard, this process can happen rather quickly, so don't be discouraged. The jobs are real. The money is real. The only investment is the amount of time you are willing to invest. The market for freelancers is growing in leaps and bounds. The future markets are projected to continue to grow at the same rapid rate. This means more fantastic freelance opportunities and greater potential income. Companies love working with freelancers because they're a lot more convenient and often a lot less expensive than hiring traditional employees. When a company hires a freelancer, the freelancer worries about the materials and methods in completing the project. The company or individual only has to be concerned with communicating their needs to the contractor, another word for freelancer, and approving the final results. Freelancers don't have to be hired out from temp agencies, given benefits for meeting work hour requirements or any other formalities that employees require. Because of this, and thanks to the trend of downsizing and cutting employees, freelancing is becoming more active and profitable than ever. Let's do a brief overview of the pros and cons to give you a clear image of what you can expect when getting into freelancing. The pros. Be your own boss. Set your own hours. Never get fired. You only have to look for new clients. Work when you want and how you want. No limits. Work thousands of miles away. No distance barriers. Spend more time with your family and friends. Potentially make a lot more money than a 9-to-5 job. Economy affects job availability differently. Usually a poor economy increases freelance work rather than decreases it. The cons. No work is guaranteed. You're always looking for clients. Profits will be slow until you build up your business. In the US, you will have to pay more taxes. You must be skilled or a professional. There's no freelance hamburger flipping. While there are definitely some caveats to be had about freelancing, you can see that there are more pros than cons, and honestly the pros outweigh the cons, for most people anyway. The versatility of freelance jobs makes them a powerful choice for anyone who's had trouble holding down a steady job with their local economy. Who freelance works for? If you're the type of person who likes to have a different thing to do every day and loves variety, then freelancing will probably work well for you. Anyone who is sociable and can easily communicate with other people will excel at freelance work. Sometimes the hardest part is convincing a client to bid on you for a job, or just speaking with them about the semantics of a particular job. People who are skilled but can't seem to find work that's stable are prime candidates for freelance work. It allows them to stay on top of their field without having to look for committed full-time work. Who freelance doesn't work for? As I've stated previously, freelancing is not for everyone. If you're the type of person who loves to do the exact same thing every day, then freelancing is probably not for you. Freelancing means you're dealing with many different clients who all have very different goals. If you're the type of person who keeps to a tight schedule and plans out the entire day the night before, then freelance work may be too unpredictable for you. You might consider picking one day of the week to work on small freelance projects so you can supplement your existing income without throwing your schedule off balance. This problem can be drastically reduced if you develop a faithful client base that has consistent needs. How do I get started? A lot of people are apprehensive about starting a freelance career. There are 1,000 questions to ask because it's so incredibly different from having a traditional job. The first thing to do is to establish the difference between working freelance and owning your own business. When you do freelance work, you essentially are your own business. You have to pay taxes differently, and you have to take care of the portion that would normally be covered by the company. That being said, there's a clear difference between being a freelancer and a business owner. Owning your own business means that you have an establishment or work from your home, and you do business with clients. So far, it's the same as freelancing. The difference is that businesses usually require a business license and special tax status. Aside from that, as a business, you'll generally be the type of person who hires employees to get work done. The key difference is that if you own a business, you usually sell a product or offer a standardized service, and there are rarely contracts involved beyond the standard warranties and terms of service, etc. As a freelancer, you are merely completing a service for a client and do contracts on a per-client basis. Every situation is different. It's a fine line, but the point I'm trying to make is that freelance work is less complicated, less expensive, and usually less work than owning your own business. As long as you set up an easy way to do your taxes, usually quarterly, you pretty much just have to get clients, do work and receive payment. Every country, state and territory is different, but in general you don't require a special license to become a freelancer. Who makes the money? You might be wondering just who exactly makes all the money when it comes to freelancing. The best part of freelancing is that there is a niche for almost every skill. As long as you are proficient in a particular skill, you have just as good a chance as anyone else of making a lot of money with freelance work. If you are good, the demands upon your skills will be greater than the supply you can produce. Don't worry if you're not 100% sure about what your path is going to be. Throughout the course of this book, we're going to assess what your strengths are and talk about how you can use them to their fullest for the best profit potential. Why is freelancing so lucrative? Well, as I said before, companies are outsourcing more and more work every year. It is much more cost-effective for a company to outsource work to a free agent than to pay and maintain one full-time employee. A company can find the right professional for a particular project rather than relying on a few employees who may not have the expertise needed to complete the project. The people who make the most money doing freelance work are the type of people who know how to market themselves. They develop relationships with a large client base and know how to expand their business and maintain a certain level of quality. Many freelancers become extremely wealthy. In the end, it all boils down to your client connections and your reputation. Who are these freelancers? How do they become rich? How do they find their clients? You're probably excited to get going and start learning all of these fantastic techniques right now. Not to worry, we'll be discussing all of these things and more in the coming chapters. The immediate answer is technology. The days of typewriters are gone. The days of waiting for a response from a client by postal service are gone. We live in a world of modern technology. Documents can be written, saved and transmitted over thousands of miles in just a few short seconds. Words can reach thousands of people instantly. There is email now. In fact, you can chat online with clients on a real-time basis. Information is easy to find, store and send. That is why you can live anywhere you like as a freelancer. You are not confined to any one geographical address, as long as some type of internet access is available. Another advantage of modern technology is the ability for freelancers and their clients to find one another. There are many websites where a client can post a job and a freelancer can instantly respond to it. Again, geographical distance is not an issue. A client can be in Japan and the freelancer can be in sunny Florida, and they can have a successful partnership agreement. Technology is the absolute answer to worldwide connections and limitless opportunity. Our ability to communicate with almost no restrictions allows a freelancer to connect with clients and complete projects from literally anywhere on the planet. Since your work is not necessarily localized, as it is with many businesses, you have limitless opportunities for wealth. What's my niche? In case you're not familiar with the term, a niche is a specific or distinct segment of a market. This could be a particular category of work or a target audience. Work-at-home mums, for instance, is a particular niche. There are people all over the world who market products towards mothers who make a living from home. Alternatively, there are millions of mums who work for themselves. Another word you could use is penchant. People often say, "I have a penchant for," when they're talking about a particular strength or affinity to something. So your penchant is the strength that you have to market, and your niche is the actual market you're going after. When it comes to freelance, there really are no limits. You can do work for any niche imaginable. In the world of computers and technology, the most common niches to work for are digitally based industries, where the distance between client and freelancer has no bearing and work can be submitted on the internet instead of in person. Here's a brief list of the most popular niches. Writing. This could include just about anything. Writing is one of the most popular niche markets for freelancers because companies everywhere need copy to be written, but more often than not, they don't really need so much that they can justify hiring a professional copywriter. The great thing about this market is that it's probably the most versatile one there is. As long as you are a competent writer, you can write about any subject imaginable. Voiceover work. This is another excellent niche. Like writing, this really requires no extra skills or knowledge beyond being able to read well. Even if you don't think you have a very good voice, you can become a successful voiceover artist. It's how you say the words that ultimately matters. Video and screen capture video. A lot of large companies do training courses on an annual or semi-annual basis. Especially if they're a computer-based company, they will need screen capture video to train their employees on how to use essential software. Since these types of projects come up so rarely, it's almost never necessary to hire an employee to make the videos, so this is a popular niche to get freelance work in. Research. Research is a lucrative freelancing option to get into, although it's arguably hard to find reputable companies to work for. Research is exactly what it sounds like. You get small projects where you simply have to research a topic and provide information on it. It's rarely needed as much as other niches like writing, but it is something to consider. Help desk management. This is a lot easier than it sounds. Millions of websites that sell products and services have what's called a help desk. It's basically an online ticket system for customers to submit their problems and issues and then hopefully get them resolved. Most of your activities will include answering emails, submitting refunds, and giving low-level support for products. For a large company, this is usually something that full or part-time employees are hired for, but sometimes when a company does a big launch, it will hire freelancers to deal with a significant influx of support requests after a product launch. Translation. If you know more than one language, then your job opportunities are vastly expanded. There are a myriad of free translation programs on the web, but most companies will want what's called a human translation. This is exactly what it sounds like, a translation done by a human and not software. The reason this method is preferred is because the translations are usually more accurate and use colloquialisms and idioms that only a native speaker would think to use. Your tasks will usually include translating books, websites, and manuals. Graphic design and art. Despite the very specific, very talent-based nature of this niche, it's one of the absolute most popular niches in regards to freelance work. Companies very rarely hire full-time or part-time graphic designers unless the company is involved with printing services, etc. Almost all companies employ freelance graphic designers whenever they need to design new graphics or update old graphics. This can be anything from billboards to website images. If you have a talent for designing and creating images with the computer, and even better if you have an art degree, you can make a substantial profit from freelancing in the graphic design field. Software development and programming. This is another very skill-based niche, but it's also very lucrative. Again, most companies that need this type of work don't need it on a day-to-day basis, so it's almost always hired out to freelancers. That means you'll have a much easier time of finding a job than some other niches with more competition. The other benefit of freelance programming is that oftentimes your clients will know absolutely nothing about programming. So if you're skilled but can't quite cut it in the professional realm of programming, you might still have a chance to build up your experience with freelance jobs. Finance and bookkeeping. You might be noticing a trend with the jobs I'm listing. The types of things freelancers do are generally things that simply aren't required year-round. Financing and accounting are things that people tend to do periodically, so they often hire a freelancer, since it's way more cost-effective than hiring an employee. The higher your education is, the better, but if you have experience with accounting, you can still do well in this field without specific training. That's just a tiny list of some of the most popular types of jobs, and even at that, it's hardly complete. The possibilities are really limitless. I could probably fill the rest of this entire book just with job descriptions. Instead, I'll give you a short list of some of the other types of jobs you might look into. Aside from the 8 I mentioned earlier, these are the most popular and highest paying freelance jobs. Animators, computer programmers, consultants, culinary jobs, editors, copy editors, interior designers, telemarketers, translators, tutors, web designers, etc. And there are many, many more where that came from. So, as you can see, as long as you're very good at something, there is a niche and a client base waiting for you to take their money. Have a plan. Anyone who ever had a prosperous and profitable career as a freelancer didn't just jump into it with their eyes closed. You definitely don't want to just quit your day job and try to freelance or drop everything you're doing for it. You need to have a long-term plan that you can slowly execute and eventually reap the profits from. You've already got a head start because you're reading this book. The next step is to do some extra research outside of this text in order to assess where your opportunities lie and how deep you can get into freelancing at this point. For instance, if you already have a job but simply aren't making enough money, you can try freelancing on your spare time to try and supplement your income. If you find that your freelance jobs are slowly increasing and beginning to pay more than your day job, you can consider quitting and asking for a part-time schedule and focusing on your freelance work. Any transition you make should be slow. Until you get established as a freelancer with a decent client base, it's just as volatile as the employment job market. The only difference is that finding new clients is a lot easier than finding new employers. The first bit of research you should do is with online freelancing services. Luckily for you, there are tons. Once you've used 1 or 2 of these services a while, you can eventually start running the whole show yourself. But these networks are a great place to get into freelancing because they do a lot of the work for you. After you've become an established freelancer with a client base, you can move past these websites and make slightly higher profits. These are my top picks for freelancing websites: allfreelance.com, aquent.com, elance.com, craigslist.org, vworker.com, ifreelance.com, odesk.com, and guru.com. Of these websites, I'm going to specifically talk about Odesk, Craigslist, Elance, vworker, formerly Rent-A-Coder, and Guru. These are my 5 favourite websites to use, and they all have unique advantages that make each of them worth trying out. How these sites works varies pretty widely. Some sites, like Craigslist, are more so bulletin boards than networks. Other sites charge you a monthly or yearly fee, but most of them will offer a free service in addition to their paid service, or they'll take a percentage of your profits. Look around and see if your skills match with any of the jobs posted. Even if you don't see many jobs requiring your skills, don't give up. It could mean that your niche is in an untapped area. If so, congratulations. This means that you will have a lot less competition. Look for a variety of jobs that match your skills. When you find some, look at how much those jobs pay. The amounts will vary. As clients become more familiar with your work and you build trust and a reputation, you can begin to demand more money. Many sites require you to bid on projects. The stipulation is that you have to pay some sort of commission to the company who owns the site. Take some time and look at these sites. You may also use a search engine such as Google and use the keyword freelance. Or you may add some specific skills to narrow your search, such as freelance writing. Before we move on, I'm going to give you an overview of my top 3 websites so you can get an idea of how they work. These include vworker, Elance, and Craigslist.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, make a comment, and share. You can subscribe today and click the bell button now to get notified of our new video.